Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Right?
Okay, the Anaheim Union High School District Board of Trustees meeting of November 18th, 2021 is called to order at 3:05 p.m. The following members are present: Anne Marie Randall Trejo, Brian O'Neill, Al Jabbar, Catherine H. Smith, and myself, Anna L. Piercy. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Seeing none, we will now proceed to the study session. Okay, study session will be led by Carl.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. You may remember in October we had a presentation from Cooperative Strategies, the demographer who's assisting with our trustee area adjustment. Justin Rich and Angela Banuelos from Cooperative Strategies are with us this afternoon, as well as Michael Toy from Parker and Covert, and they're here to help us with a study session looking at some scenarios that we can pursue moving forward. So I would invite Justin up to the podium and we can get started.
Good afternoon, nice to be with you today. Afternoon instead of evening for once. So, I'm here, as Carl mentioned, to recap some of the information that we shared with you last time. Also, Angela and our team have been doing some work on creating an additional map for you to consider, so we'll talk about some of the minor changes we made that may accomplish a couple of the things that you all want to see and we all want to see as well. So let me get started here. This is a slide that I shared with you before. This is the, after we received the validated census data, we conducted your assessment of your existing trustee areas to see whether or not they were still in balance. A couple of things stood out to us. First of all, your district grew by about 3.3% in that decade from 2010 to 2020. There was some population shifts as well, just in terms of the Asian population in particular increased, a trend that we're seeing in many districts that we're working with. And it's important to note that the deadline for adopting a new map and making any changes, should you choose to do that, is February 28th, 2022. In the table down at the bottom, I'm going to point to a couple of things here that I mentioned last time. The smallest trustee area is Area 1, and the largest trustee area is Area 2. The total variance, this is the difference between the smallest and the largest area, is 9.0%. Just as a reminder, our threshold and what our target is, less than 10% in order to be compliant with the law. On this slide, we have a table showing you, again, based on 2020 census data, your district's demographics, and we have various racial and ethnic categories as provided by the census here. I will point to the fact that your largest protected class is the Hispanic Latino population at just about 52%. Another data point that is important and relevant to this process is the citizen voting age population. This is provided by the American Community Survey, a division of the census. And the citizen voting age population, it's an estimate of eligible voters by race and ethnicity. Really what it is, it's a measure of voting strength. And so as we look at your current trustee areas and as we look at the additional scenario that we've prepared for you, we're going to pay close attention to how the citizen voting age population percentages change and see if there might be any improvements in relation to the Federal Voting Rights Act and our duty to not impair the ability of a protected class to elect the candidate of their choice. So on the screen, we have your current trustee map. Tonight we're going to be presenting, or today I should say, we're going to be presenting two options. Maintaining your existing trustee areas as they are. Again, you are currently within what is considered legal variance and in terms of population balance. But we will compare that with the other scenario that we've created. On the following slide, we have the demographic breakdown of your current trustee areas. Again, up in the right-hand corner, I shared with you the variance is at 9.0%. But then I'm going to go down to the table below where we have both total population, that's our metric for measuring population balance, and the citizen voting age population, and these are listed for each of the trustee areas here. There's a lot of data on this table, so just want to make sure you can follow along. In terms of citizen voting age population, what you'll notice is that for the largest protected class, the Hispanic Latino voters, you have a majority in trustee area 1 at just about 56%. And in trustee area 2, you have a plurality, which is nearly a majority, at 49.0%. So in our scenario 2 that we've prepared for you all, we've made some slight changes. We've only made changes to trustee areas 1 and 2. As you'll recall, those are the smallest and largest areas. And we haven't touched any of the other trustee areas for this particular map scenario. Generally, and we can dive in more to the specific changes that were made, but trustee area 1 shifted west and south. And that's the boundary line between trustee area 1 and 2. And then just generally, trustee area 2 shifted a little bit north and also dropped its northern boundary a little southward. So this scenario was drawn in consideration first of balancing population, and that's why the changes were made only between trustee area 1 and 2. And then I think just what's important to note here is that based on those changes, we were able to create a second majority protected class district in trustee area 2 just by making those minor changes. That's a positive development in terms of the Federal Voting Rights Act, and I think something that we were excited to see, frankly. In terms of the population breakdown or the demographic breakdown, you'll notice that the variance up in the right-hand corner is now quite a bit lower at 2.1%. And then again, I'll direct you to the citizen voting age population for the Hispanic Latino voters in trustee area 1, that's at 54.5%, and for trustee area 2, it's right at 50%. In terms of the timeline for the process, where we're at today is the review stage of these initial scenarios. What we plan to do next is next month gather community input through a few different methods. Take that input that we receive not only from you but from the community and really synthesize that and report back to you all. Hold a public hearing in January. Take any additional feedback that we hear from that public hearing, potentially create additional scenarios if that's necessary, with the intention of adopting the final trustee area map in February. Following that, we'll submit that map to the county registrar of voters, so that it'll be implemented for the November 2022 election cycle. I'll pause there for questions and look forward to hearing from you.
Are there any questions by the board? Anne Marie?
Thank you for this information. In gathering this information, is there a possibility of further growth just within the coming years, since there was such a big push? Do you have any knowledge of a population growth in the just like recent coming years?
Sure, we know in the Platinum Triangle area there's going to continue to be more units constructed. Certainly there will be growth within the district. The challenge that we face is what sort of projection do we use for that, and how do we apply that to the building blocks as we create our maps, which are the census blocks. How much population is going to come from that? What we've witnessed over the last 10 to 15 years is that there may be less population. School-age children is one group that comes to mind. That may not be there. So what we have to do is we have to comply with the law, one person, one vote. And so I think what you want to do today is to make sure that you're balanced based on that. If there's a rationale for keeping one area slightly smaller because you know it'll grow over time, that might be something that is a valid consideration. But you have to know that you will be coming back 10 years from now and doing this rebalancing act again. So I didn't completely answer your question. I think it's our first charge is to comply with the law and be balanced. And considering things like population growth can be taken into consideration as long as you meet that minimum threshold.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a couple of
Mr.
questions.
Jabbar?
So I have a couple of questions. Where would be or what would be the process for community input on this one now?
Yeah, we're working with your staff to I think formalize those problems. At minimum, what we're doing now is we're putting forth a community input form, which will be on your website. Folks can list that information. I think we're trying to figure out whether or not we're going to host an in-person or virtual town hall meeting where people can show up and ask questions, make suggestions, and I think those are the key things. I think that through the district's typical communication channels, it's important to reach out to folks just to see if they have input on these potential changes.
What is the process for if there are community members who are interested in submitting maps? Do we have an option to do that?
Certainly, they can submit those maps to us, and we can recreate those and run the statistical analysis just to see how that is, and then present those back to you all.
So then, Mike, one of the other questions is, now I see your scenario 2 that you put together. I already have some suggestions, right? So as a board member, would that be my job to let you know in an open setting, a public setting, so that you make those changes and bring it up as scenario 3? Or do we wait till the public has given that opportunity and then I come back and make those suggestions?
To be frank, and I may, I'll let Mike talk about this as well, districts have approached it in any number of ways that you've described. We can take that, we can see what a map based on those changes may look like, and if there's any additional improvement, we can wait till later. My view is that the sooner we get that kind of input put into a map scenarios for the community to be able to see is probably best.
Okay. And when would that opportunity for me as a board member be?
Right now.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, you could do that today, or you could submit your comments as part of the community forum, where the community forum is not an official board meeting, it's for the community. So you would be presenting your map as a member of the community, and then at the community meeting, district staff could direct one or all of those suggested changes for board consideration. I think at this point, because the map scenarios are not right now part of an official board agenda, you could submit your suggestions as part of the community process.
Okay. So I'll let everybody else answer the questions while I kind of try to figure out my suggestion.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Anna. I have a question, Justin. So on scenario 2, just eyeballing it, it looks like Sycamore Junior High was sort of taken out of the natural feeder pattern into Anaheim High School, whereas you look at the current map.
That was going to be my,
it's
yeah.
part of that, right? You see?
Yeah.
So what is the rationale? Because it would seem to be logical to keep the feeder pattern together.
It's simply a population balancing exercise, and trying to do that in a way that we're able to create the second majority protected class district. And so as we, Angela and our team went through a number of different moving census blocks around, that was the best way for us to be able to create that second majority Hispanic Latino district.
Was that what you were thinking, Mr. DeBar?
Yeah, that was one of my things, right? Because when I take a look at it, I'm looking at the attendance boundaries itself. So my suggestion for a third scenario would be to encompass all of the Anaheim high school attendance area, which is depicted by the red outline. So which is, the current map takes it all the way up to State College, but not really below or south of Broadway. So I want to encompass all of that. So which basically means in this scenario 2, you will take all the way up to State College, right? And then try to make that as much as possible incorporating the attendance area, and then maybe some in terms of making sure that you have some kind of variance for population balancing, right? In terms of how you want to balance that out. But I do want to emphasize, because in scenario 2, obviously, we're having one Hispanic district, which is area 1, and then we're making the second one 50%. I would love to see that, if possible, maintained. If that means tweaking a little bit here and there, moving into District 3, I would like to see a map that depicts that. And I was just, in light of the fact that we have a bump in Asian population in our district, I also want to highlight that I think we do have a Asian influence district in District 4. District 4, actually, yeah, I think.
Four and five.
Not really, 5 is not a, 5 falls into a 30%, but, 28%, right? But yeah, 4. But if, I don't know if that matters, because I know while looking at our county borders, that was one of the biggest asks from, especially Asian communities in the area that we represent in the county. They specifically asked for a Asian influence district, right? So I think we're there with District 4. I don't know if that makes a difference in tweaking a little bit here and there to make that, give that opportunity there.
Are you saying to make them a plurality?
A plurality, yes. If that makes any, if that's, I don't think that's a requirement of the requirement that we need to adhere to, but I suspect that it's going to come out in community forums anyways. So I'll reserve my comment to that, but as of right now, I'll just speak to the District 4, District 2, which is, if you could come up with a scenario 3, which allows you to encompass all of Anaheim High School, or when I say Anaheim, the high school boundary line for Anaheim High School, incorporating Sycamore Junior High. And then I actually looked at some cleanup work, but I think you guys you've done it with scenario 2, except for that particular piece. And then if need be, to maintain a majority Latino district for D2, maybe we do a little bit of boundary adjustments with areas which are more Latino influential in District 3 and District 2 to balance it out. Hopefully that made sense.
It does make sense.
Okay.
I will caution that as we move into trustee area 3 potentially, which is already under by 0.3%, that then we will have to take some territory potentially. It'll be a little bit of a balancing act in order to get that just right.
Yeah, at least maintain the 50%, right? So for me, if we could maintain that 50%, giving 2 Latino districts, yeah, absolutely.
Can I say something? I hear what you're saying, Mr. Jabbar, but I think it gets so difficult to try to keep the right population percentage that I think the least important is attendance area, because we're all, representing all of our district. And I know it's nice to have it all, but I mean, some of the other areas have divided attendance areas already. And it doesn't hurt, because we're next to each other, we're all together. So I think the population and the percentage of the minority group is more important than school attendance areas. And so I understand, because I saw that, I went, but
Yeah.
I
don't
just think when he goes to try to figure that out, he's working with all those numbers and percentages that something has to fall by the wayside, and I think that attendance area might be one of those things that we kind of don't worry about as much.
Right, and I would agree to a certain extent, but I think for me, just because I've represented that area, which I most likely won't be representing
Right, I
after this
understand,
term
but,
is, but my interest is that obviously making sure that Sycamore, I get the whole global concept of everybody represents all the school district, but I think as communities of interest, that makes a big difference for a feeder school pattern to be actually included. And for me, I don't think even the current scenario that we have actually makes it 55%, 49%. So that's why I didn't really think that there was much need to take that portion of the district out. I know we went south, but I don't think we needed to do that. I think we could still maintain the same district that we have right now and just do the cleanup. My request was going to be to actually keep the current district and bring the southern border all the way down, right? Which kind of takes care of the boundary anyways. But again, I don't know how much of it will balance out with population versus even the ethnic population, right?
Sure.
So I think we can play around with it.
Yep.
I've been having fun working with the county system, so I know it's the same you guys use. So I think that there's an opportunity to do it without any issue, so.
I will let you know that when we did that, we were not able to achieve that second.
Okay.
But we will try again based on the things that you've shared with us and share that with you.
Yeah, because if at all, so then my suggestion is, if you can't do that, at least keep the extension of all the way going to State College, and I think you can accomplish it just based on the community that I'm looking between East and Broadway, East Street and Broadway. I think you can bring it all the way down in that area to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And then I'm not necessarily wholly set on encompassing the entire high school attendance area. So if we can go more to the side of State College and bring it down further from Broadway, I would suggest maybe, I think that next street is Santa Ana or even Water Street. You can probably accomplish what we're looking to accomplish and not jeopardize the population balance, because there's a good community there that could incorporate that.
Okay?
And again, I'm sure that there are, because I've been already approached by a few folks who are looking to see if they could submit a map.
Certainly.
And I think we're accomplishing what we need to accomplish, but I'm sure the community has their ideas as well, so.
Yep.
Okay, anyone else have any comments? All right, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's a short one.
Okay. Public comments, closed session items. Is there anyone that wishes to address the Board of Trustees regarding closed session items only at this time? Seeing none, the Board of Trustees will now hold a closed session to discuss items 5.1 through 5.8 on the agenda. It is now 3:30 p.m. and we will move to closed session.